Horror games have an uncanny ability to terrify us in ways that even the scariest movies can't match. They immerse us so deeply into their chilling worlds that every creak and whisper sends shivers down our spines. Whether you're a seasoned horror fanatic or a newcomer craving spine-tingling thrills, these 13 games promise to deliver unforgettable scares that will haunt your dreams. Get ready to face your fears. Number 13, The Forest. N. Night's The Forest is a rare example of a remarkable survival and survival horror game. While its sequel, Sons of the Forest, improves on the formula in several ways, an argument could be made that its predecessor is scarier. Part of that is due to most players likely starting with the 2018 original, so they should know what to expect when they get to the sequel. However, The Forest features a far more poorly prepared protagonist. Eric has no background knowledge that could help him navigate a dangerous island filled with intimidating caves and cannibals. This emphasizes the survival aspect while heightening the horror as Eric and the players find themselves exploring areas blindly. Number 12, Alien Isolation. The Alien franchise debuted with one of the scariest sci-fi movies ever, rarely focusing on pure horror. Most cinematic sequels fall short of the original's high standard or lean more towards action, and the games could be much better. However, Alien Isolation is a notable exception. This game is specifically inspired by the 1979 original film. Creative Assembly successfully captures the movie's sense of isolation by placing players in an unsettling space station plagued by a xenomorph. Rather than prioritizing quantity, Alien Isolation emphasizes quality. For most of the game, players must hide from a single threat, one that constantly stalks the station and exhibits advanced AI, making it feel like a living, breathing entity. Although the protagonist eventually unlocks some offensive options, she remains defenseless throughout the campaign. In this experience, the player is the hunted, not the hunter. Number 11, PT. PT was a playable teaser developed by Kojima Productions, intended to be part of the Silent Hill game series, with the completed project planned to be titled Silent Hills. Although it is not a full game, PT achieves a great deal with minimal resources. In terms of scariness, PT surpasses expectations. This short teaser is scarier than most completed horror games. It features not only frightening jump scares, but also genuinely unsettling moments that evoke terror. Unfortunately, accessing PT can be challenging as it has been removed from the PlayStation Store. Number 10, Visage. PT's unfortunate demise led to one positive outcome: the rise of indie games inspired by Konami's demo. The Steam platform is now flooded with these titles, and while many are just average, a few truly stand out. Among them, Visage emerges as the scariest horror game to come from this moment, proving to be much more than just a clone of PT. Set in a house that seems to attract tragedy, the story follows a man who is grappling with his own demons and is about to face even greater challenges. Visage is divided into chapters, each set in a different time period and featuring various central characters, although the protagonist remains consistent throughout. The game delves into heavy themes and continuously introduces new elements to keep players on edge, ensuring that they never become too comfortable. Visage offers a horror experience that can induce feelings of nausea without relying on excessive gore. Number 9, Resident Evil Remake. The first Resident Evil remake is repeatedly regarded as the scariest game in the series. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard has more horrific elements, but the spine-chilling rustic atmosphere of the first Resident Evil remake is unique in its own way. This remake was initially released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2002. Since then, it has been ported to various consoles including PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. A constant feeling of seclusion makes the Resident Evil remake one of the most frightening games of all time. Number 8, The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2 offers a more enjoyable experience than its predecessor and, more importantly, is scarier. The sequel is filled with jump scares and graphic content, not for the faint of heart. Its open-world design makes encounters feel less predictable and more spontaneous. To top it off, the story is genuinely compelling. Overall, The Evil Within is one of the most enjoyable horror games of the 2010s, especially for players who appreciate a more open environment. Unlike the reasonably linear first game, the sequel is set in a small city, giving it an open-world feel. While this approach could have weakened the horror elements, The Evil Within 2 excels due to its terrifying creatures, such as Anima, Guardian, and Obscura. Number 7. Until Dawn and its remake. Supermassive Games has established itself as a leader in interactive horror experiences, with recent releases such as The Quarry and The Dark Pictures Anthology. It's no surprise that their games are often ranked among the scariest available for thrill-seeking players. Among all their titles, Until Dawn, one of the developer's original releases, stands out as a game that many have tried but often been too afraid to complete. Each character the players control possesses a compelling backstory and plays a crucial role in the narrative. Intense choices can leave players anxious as they question whether they made the right decisions. They discover the consequences of their choices only by replaying Until Dawn. The game's intense and often unpredictable story, combined with the high stakes of player choices, creates a truly terrifying experience. Number 6. Dead Space and its remake. EA Redwood's Dead Space takes fairly obvious inspiration from Resident Evil 4. While an argument could be made that the latter is the better overall game, the former is undoubtedly scarier. As Isaac Clarke, players find themselves trapped in a spaceship infested with necromorphs, alien creatures that not only have horrific and creative designs, but are also extremely dangerous. Compared to the sequels, the original Dead Space attempts to emphasize Isaac's vulnerability while still providing enough tools so that players do not feel powerless. The Dead Space remake is also excellent and preserves the 2008 classic's tense atmosphere and satisfying gameplay. Number 5. Outlast. Although the second Outlast may have improved visuals and a more exciting story, the first was way more frightening. Progressing through the game using a camcorder's night vision mode with limited battery life is disheartening, and players have no means to defend themselves. The remote mental asylum that the reporter progresses through is filled with psychotic patients who are far from ordinary. Outlast has remarkable sales figures for a low-budget game and spawned a dedicated fanbase. Number 4. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard marked a new era in Capcom's franchise, bringing back an emphasis on horror over action. The game took bold risks that paid off, and the campaign's opening hours are as scary as any other project. However, the game has parts where horror takes a back seat, especially during the story's second half. While focusing on the accessible base game, Resident Evil 7's VR mode is on another level regarding scares. That technology has proven to be the perfect match for the genre, something that Capcom has repeatedly proven through their legendary horror IP. Number 3. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly. While the property has lost some popularity recently, Fatal Frame's horror legacy remains firmly established, mainly due to its PS2 trilogy. There is debate over which entry is the most terrifying. However, many consider Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly to have the most engaging story and gameplay, while still providing comparable scares to its predecessor and successor. The series centers around capturing photographs of ghosts and using exorcism techniques to free their spirits. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly excels in portraying its ghosts, many of which are inspired by Japanese myths. In addition to featuring some of the creepiest yokai designs in gaming, the game offers a wide variety of ghosts. Number 2. Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is one of the most enduring games on the PlayStation 2, representing psychological horror at its finest. The story follows James Sunderland, who receives a letter from his deceased wife urging him to come to Silent Hill, an eerie town that serves as a gateway to its visitors' deepest traumas, fears, and desires. Surrounded by thick fog and rich in visual storytelling, Silent Hill 2 immerses players in the protagonist's nightmare. James is not portrayed as a noble or idealistic hero. Among the terrifying entities inhabiting the town, the nurses stand out as some of the horror genre's most iconic and frightening enemies. Number 1. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. This hair-raising survival horror game has been the inspiration for games like Slender, The Arrival, and Outlast. Being left alone in the dark with the omnipresent threat of murderous monsters, Amnesia: The Dark Descent has left some players so frightened that they have been unable to finish the horror experience. Besides the scares, there are also some exciting puzzles to solve, making the game overall an enjoyable experience. Players will want to play Amnesia: The Dark Descent in the dark for the scariest experience of all. Thanks for joining us on this terrifying journey through the scariest horror games out there. Whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just getting into the genre, these games promise unforgettable thrills. If you enjoyed this list, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss more gaming recommendations and chills. Have a favorite horror game that we didn't mention? Drop it in the comments below. And until next time, stay brave and happy gaming.